Holy smokes, you can definitely see there's a lot of smoke in the air today. A lot of places they look red. The sunlight anyways looks like it's apocalyptic too. There's probably some wildfires in the area. And with that in mind, what did I read today? How about this one, which is kind of interesting with all that talk about drone safety and all that, and with more use of things like agricultural drones. Apparently, this person is claiming one of the drones actually sprayed her dogs, and as a result, they had to be euthanized. So you can read her post here. It says, after an agricultural drone sprayed pesticides on me, my personal service dog, and service dog candidates in May, my personal service dog has been euthanized due to an aggressive lymphoma. I'm at the Veterinary Teaching Hospital College getting her autopsied. So I was trying to find out what is this all about. I believe this is the same person anyways, with the name and all that too. This one here says, Waterloo woman says crop spraying drone doused her service dogs with pesticides. A local woman's beloved puppies were sprayed from above with pesticides. She says a drone doused them, and now she is demanding action from officials. For years, Mary McNeight has trained medical alert service dogs out of her Waterloo, Illinois home. The dogs are skilled to recognize medical emergencies before they happen. And I guess according to this, one day she saw this drone, pop up. Apparently, somebody was doing drone spraying, for example, within a certain area. It says it was literally out of a Terminator movie. Like that drone coming over the property, and then my dogs ended up fighting. I was like, oh my god, McKnight recalled. A video shows a drone spraying chemicals in the farm next door. What the camera doesn't capture, McKnight said, is the pesticide drifting onto her property, onto her and her dogs. So according to this, it says she started to text the farmer and all that, and as a result of them being sprayed, she claims here that several of her dogs had her eyes swollen shut, began vomiting, and suffered muscle pain. And as well, one was hospitalized. It didn't seem like it ended up very well according to her actual post anyways. And her argument, of course, is how if this is causing health problems for the dogs, it's causing her thousands of dollars in medical bills, and as well, she can't breed the dogs anymore because of this. If this is true too, it says anyways, the Illinois Department of Agriculture reported about 241 pesticide misuse complaints in 2024. About 21 of them led to fines. Now, in terms of the operator's defense, apparently they could show things like flight logs and so forth to show that the drone was nowhere near their property, although I don't know how far the actual pesticide could actually go from their property to that lady's with the wind and all that. At the same time, I have to wonder, didn't farms, for example, or many of them I would assume still do, spray their, let's just say, crops and stuff with something else in a similar manner, where technically if the spray from that drone could get to her property, it should have done that, I guess, in the previous times as well, assuming it was something else, like not a quote drone. Unless the argument is the drone literally flew into the property, which is a little different, but the argument is they say they could show that wasn't the case. So what would you think of this situation? It was kind of interesting anyways. And in terms of concerns about drone, how about this one? Apparently in the US, they're going to push legislation further where airports have to have some kind of counter-drone measure of sort. This one says Congress advances legislation to require FAA deploy counter-drone systems at major US airports. The US Congress is working on a bill that would require the Federal Aviation Administration to deploy technologies intended to protect US airports from threats posed by drones. Approved 3rd of September by the House of Transportation Committee, the bill comes amid a broader push by the US government to shield critical US infrastructure and crowded public venues from attack or disruption by unmanned aircraft systems. They say they get hundreds of reports of drones around airports and so forth, and with that, it says the House would require the FAA to establish an Office of Counter USA Activities, and within 270 days to define minimum performance requirements required for counter-drone technologies. And I suppose if everything passed, it says they would have to implement some kind of pilot program where up to 5 large airports would need to have these counter-drone systems installed. Although it makes me wonder with this, because it says, additionally, the bill would authorize the FAA to use a variety of means to detect and identify drones, including telecommunications, and to control such aircraft remotely. So does that mean they could, if they feel like it, let's just say, hack into someone's drone and start flying it? At the same time, when it says including telecommunications, does that mean a government official could, let's just say, quote, spy on somebody's phone in general? That would be kind of interesting if that's the case anyways. But it makes me think, does this kind of show all that talk about remote ID, people registering this and that is not really helping overall? It basically comes down to what I've mentioned a lot of times. You have to find ways to actually deal with stuff like that. So what was the point of doing all this stuff? People spending all this time and money to invest in this system, for example, to stay legal. At the same time, a lot of people just lost their rights. People flying toys and all that. There just seems to be absolutely no common sense and critical thinking, in my opinion, when it comes to regulatory bodies, I guess, making rules about this stuff. Or are they just that much controlled by lobbyists and so forth? And I guess with all that wildfire and stuff here, I was just trying to read what was going on, and this might be the answer why there's so much smoke. This one says wildfire near BC's Coquihalla Highway triggers evacuation order and alerts. So this is around the Kamloops area, and it says people are being evacuated. And at the same time, the fire is specifically due to a Mine Creek fire, which has reached 1,900 hectares in size and is burning near the highway between Hope and Merritt. They do say the situation is getting better overall, but at the same time, this smoke is causing a lot of health issues for a lot of people. I can actually hear in the background too here, people coughing like crazy in some parts anyways. I find it kind of crazy as well, where you can see people smoking cigarettes and stuff like that still, despite the air like this. All right, see you guys later.